Vision doesn't create events, systems do. Business ideas, it feels exciting, but execution is truly everything. Honestly, the Unicorn Summit, I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. Everyone saw the stage, the lights, the speakers were so phenomenal, but what you didn't see were the spreadsheets, the stress, the decisions, the doubt that I had in my head, and the leadership that it truly took to make that vision a reality. So I'm going to share with you the 5 top lessons that I learned from building the summit and how you too can really build just an incredible brand experience for yourself, because it's what it takes to go build a heartfelt brand in 2026. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your host, Suneera Madhani. And as promised, on today's Monday episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the logistics and the behind the scenes of running the Unicorn Summit. So if you ever feel like hosting a community-driven event, a live event experience, I want to take all my lessons while they're fresh, share them with all of you in real time so that you too can learn from my lessons, make the tweaks to your playbooks. And also, if you're just thinking about doing it, understand like the good, bad, the ugly, and the excitement. I mean, honestly, the Unicorn Summit, I would do it all over again in a heartbeat, which we will be doing. So we're going to do it again next year, next February, back in Orlando, Florida. Same venue. If you do it once, you could do it again. And if you do it again, you could do it better. And I don't even know how we're going to top that experience because it was truly a 10 out of 10. But like the effort that it took to get there, oh my goodness, what it actually takes to run a summit like this. Everyone saw the stage, the lights, the speakers were so phenomenal. But what you didn't see were the spreadsheets, the stress, the decisions, the doubt that I had in my head, and the leadership that it truly took to make that vision a reality. And so I'm going to share with you the 5 top lessons that I learned from building the summit and how you too can really build just an incredible brand experience for yourself, because I would 100% recommend doing this. Maybe not at this level, like you don't need to do it for every brand experience, but even if it is at a smaller scale, just bringing your community together, it's what it takes to go build a heartfelt brand in 2026. So lesson number 1 I wrote was that vision is truly the easy part. Logistics are the real business. Business ideas, it feels exciting, right? When we're like, great, I want to go do this and I want to do that. But execution is truly everything. You know, I always say there's no such thing as $1 million idea, just $1 million execution. And it literally everything that we learn on the business side of CEO School fully applied to a project like this. And there's so much execution here, from budgets, timelines, vendors, contracts. Vision doesn't create events, systems do. So dreaming is free, delivery is what is operational. So lesson number 1 is it's all about execution engine and not just the idea. And let's talk about what it took to execute. So first of all, I think that having a strong project manager is 100% the way to go. It's not you, it's somebody else, and it's not just the event planner. Something that I did different that I think most events production, we have an event planner, events team that does our Millionaire Founders Club retreats, that does these large scale. I mean, our events for MFC are about 100 women that we put together. They're 3-day experiences. They're luxury experiences. We're talking gorgeous dinners, the stage, speakers. So similar in that format. And this was a shorter event. This was, a 2-day event. But because of the scale of from a summit standpoint that we wanted to do, I brought on a project manager. And that was probably one of the best investments and decisions that I made, was having a true PM and a brand experience manager through it. That person that wasn't just the one that could help me zoom out and be my strategic, almost like my chief of staff for the event. So that was number 1, is like having somebody to PM it. And then 2, putting everything, which is still part of the 6 pillars of scale, ironically, right, is the process portion, is taking something, we have to build it from scratch, but we do it from a workflow standpoint. You have an SOP in place. Here's like documenting it, assigning owners to it, having deadlines and timelines, like so important. It was truly just a ton of spreadsheets, documents, contracts, timelines, and you need a strong team to manage it and owners across it all. One of my biggest challenges that took place for the summit execution-wise on this execution operational portion wasn't actually, you think it's going to be like the stage decor and the design and the swag, like that's the fun part. And that was really awesome when we got to that point. But one of the biggest challenges for me was the awareness. It was the first time we were doing the summit. When I announced it, we did really great marketing. We did this awesome promo video and all this production. we announced it. We sold a bunch of tickets immediately. And then it was crickets. It was completely dead. And it was also because the marketing side of it, like the campaign was shot in, it was October, end of October when we announced the conference. I literally had a 90-day turnaround time to go sell 250 tickets. And we had Thanksgiving that popped up. So literally the timing that I had chosen was not ideal. So for like a lesson for anyone that's announcing something, like no one is doing business. It's very, very tough to get people to move beyond your last thing is like your Black Friday promotion. But beyond that, it was like completely dead halt stop until back in January. And people even don't get back like when we're like, oh, I'm ready to be back January 3rd, 5th, 6th, whatever the date was that Monday. People are catching up on their own business, right? It makes sense. I was catching up on my own business. So they're not ready. Like they weren't ready until probably the 15th to pay attention to the marketing. And so that was definitely one of my big lessons that I learned was timing was not ideal. And again, I'm sharing this, we ended up doing it, but oh my God, were there moments where I was like, what do we do? And it wasn't about adding in ads or spending more dollars in that way. It wasn't that execution portion of it because it would go to a waste anyway. It was just the timing of my announcement. So I will say that our sales element of the tickets, it was like a bunch of tickets all at once. We're halfway done immediately. The second component really came with these micro pushes. And the micro pushes actually happened was when I was going out and speaking at different events and things like that. And so that was a huge help in when you're just giving yourself promotion time, right? Now that it's done and y'all have seen it, everyone's experienced it. I can talk about it early from next year. But oh my, getting through the first one felt like such a mountain. So that was like a huge one lesson was timing and making sure that you have like the PM to help you execute it. Separately, I would say that you have two different teams, right? So like another lesson is you've got your marketing and sales side of the house, and then you have your operations side of the house. Now, what was really interesting for me was at this level of scale, we still have our regular business to run. So we still had programming for CEO school. I still had a podcast to run. I still have Millionaire Founders Club calls to do. We still have just regular day-to-day business that needs to take place. So in order for us to carve out this time, I needed to make sure that there was nothing else happening for the team that was anything new. So we had to put a pause on any new partnership. We're supposed to have our new cohort of the accelerator. And I was like, nope, we've got to push it post summit. We had this awesome AI partnership that I'm so excited to tell you guys. It just has to move till this year. Everything else was a no. So our entire dedicated focus for 90 days, like literally after the announcement until every ticket was sold and until every like piece of our operations was checked off, was dedicated to the summit. Of course, we still had our clients to take care of. That was the only other time, but that was our current in motion of the regular wheel that's flowing. But there was nothing new that we could get distracted for. So if you are going to take on a large undertaking like this, or even if it's not, you're not listening to this as a sense of, I don't ever want to host a summit, Suneera, how does this apply to me? This could be for like a brand new project that you're doing, a large campaign that you're doing, a big partnership that you're about to do. Give yourself dedicated space and time to do it. Dedicate yourself to it. That's where that level of execution really came from. Lesson number 2 was on cash flow, right? Again, people, process, profit, no surprise here. We had to ensure that we had the right discipline, not just hype around our summit. I still am actually getting our final like numbers all put together because all the invoices are flowing still right now post the summit. It's events, it's expensive. Right. So we spent a couple $100,000 on putting on this event. So our ticket sales actually were just barely covering our cost of the summit. We did not get time on this first one to really go focus on sponsors and getting, our city involved and, getting better affiliate partnerships and just all the partnerships and sponsorship elements and core relationships that I have. But I think now in round 2, I'm going to do it again. We have a playbook. We need to get that started earlier. But if you're kind of going about this for the first time, you have to be disciplined about cash flow. You also have to have the cash flow set aside to go do something like this. Because as soon as I book the venue, whether there was a ticket sold or not, I have minimums to meet and deposits to pay for venue, for food, for planners, for the contractors. It was definitely a cash out experience versus, cash in for the business, which is okay, but you have to plan for that. So I do want to share that with you, that there is real risk before the revenue shows up. So I did want to make sure that I shared that. So I don't want you to just build a summit or a project on excitement. You have to build it on math too. I don't just pull out personal cash to go run any of my businesses unless I'm investing back into like a certain project or things like that. But each P&L runs on its own P&L. So I had to make sure that the timing was correct for us to be able to do that for the business as well. So if you have a big project, you want to go do something, make sure that you're allocating that cash flow. And you don't need to have that 100% of the cash flow available, but you should make sure that you're able to cover all your baselines as maybe ticket sales are coming or that partnership is in fruition. I find most often, even in partnerships or in excitement of launches or you're offering a new product, we as women we're really optimistic, which is so awesome, but we can't be making decisions based on our gut. We have to also bring, data and fact into it as well. And so plan for that accordingly. So that was a pretty big deal. I think people will assume like, oh, you'll make a ton of money off of doing an event like this. That's just far from the truth. I think we'll be in the green. I wouldn't do anything if I was in the red, but it really was to create that brand experience for us. And I had a ton of my colleagues that are super A-listers come and speak like because they wanted to and they wanted to be there for me. And so that was really incredible for us from a relationship standpoint. So your relationships really matter. Like if you're going to do something like this, make sure you call upon your relationships for support. Those things will help you, save in the long run. If I was trying to do the summit and then paying, $50,000 keynote fees and speaker fees, it wouldn't have panned out. I also think I like to do things like really big. I just don't see another way. Like I wanted to do it like 10 out of 10. It has to be at the best venue. I love the venue that we were at, which is the Dr. Phillips Performing Arts Center. It is a female-run CEO who runs this nonprofit for our community. It is like the largest performing arts center, like the number one in the US. Like we literally have Broadway. It's just like the best venue in the entire world. And although it's run as a not-for-profit, it goes back to the community, it's still a world-class venue. It's expensive to run, but that was the place I wanted to do it because it's the most gorgeous space in Orlando. I also wanted to have the team in place. I needed to have the marketing team in place that we had to extend outside of our marketing team so that it wasn't just internal. So we had to have external support. We had to have an external project manager for a brand experience. These are all real costs that were out on top of it. And then food and bev is very expensive at these things. So if you are doing some of my do-overs, I don't know if I do it over just because I like to make sure everyone is fed. And like, I just can't see a way where people go off on their own to go do that. But I think that probably the largest cost for us outside of the venue AV would be around food and bev. And that's usually the case for our MFC events too. So when we do the retreats and things like that, we're picking really nice hotels like the Ritz-Carlton we'll do events at. I mean, food and bev is $80 plus 27% in gratuity fees, whatever else for breakfast, right? And you're talking like a continental breakfast. So food and bev is expensive. So thinking about your run of show in that way, like maybe I could have like started the summit off at 10 a.m. instead of early and not have to have done breakfast, right? So those are things that I would be thinking about, but I feel okay with where we ended up because I want as like a host, for me, it's important that everyone is fed. But cash flow, super important. Make sure you're accounting for that. We also threw a party, like we had a rooftop open bar and like a dance party and awards, and so like we really went all out for the event. Our swag, so many things. So lesson number 3, which I talked about on the last podcast on just sharing my takeaways from the summit, but this is lessons for the event, is that truly your team determines whether your vision survives like the reality of actually making it happen. Truly, like the team is everything and getting the right people in place. And this goes for any project. This goes even for the team that you're building. You need people who are solution oriented, who are unblocking blockers, because there are going to be so many blockers. So we had some speakers that weren't able to make it. Okay, we need to find an alternative. We had issues with our room blocks being completely sold out. Like we completely sold out our room block. And then there were other events that were taking place in Orlando, couldn't get a hotel. And so we had to make sure that we pivoted and found other hotel partners and just somebody who just your team is always looking for that next place of solution, right? So the solution-oriented people are everything. And happy people, right? Like you are dealing with guests is how I think about it. As a guest experience, you're dealing with speakers. There's some that are like so like honestly, some of like the biggest and the best are like they're just so easy to deal with and so incredibly grateful and gracious and all of that. Then you do have some that just aren't that easy and like require that specific arrangements for their room. Just so many little nuances with every person, every vendor, every contractor that we have to manage. And so our team has to have that like super happy face on. Our team has to have that, like we say yes was one of our taglines as a team. It took a lot out of us at some point to ensure that we say yes and we create a positive experience, not just for our guests, but for everyone working like truly with us. So you got to have that team in place. And when you're doing anything new as a project, I do think it is important that you have like I said, the PM, not only a PM for any new project or project manager, but also like making sure that the team that's in your day-to-day is focused on the day-to-day, and then you have dedicated time that's dedicated to the net new thing. Every day we had time as a team blocked that was summit time. Then we had time that was blocked for our regular day-to-day activities so that the machine has to move, but the team truly determines everything. Lesson number 4 from it is, I think, thinking about everything from a workflow. Like even as a project, like when I think about a new product that I'm doing, a feature set that launches at Worth, like for this, it was really about the audience experience. I think about it from a workflow standpoint. And so experience is a strategy. And you have to think about the flow of the day. You have to think about from arrival standpoint to how they leave and how they exit, the energy of the room. You have to think about the order of the speakers, like the amount of time that we had to spend on our programming. I've gone to so many conferences. Sometimes I feel like I'm being talked at all day. So we need to have conversation. We need to have keynotes. We need to have panels. I don't want too many panels where I'm not getting that inspo, but then how do I take it into action? So we really focused on the flow of the day and had these breakup moments where you never felt bored. And I think that experience and thinking about that sometimes becomes this like afterthought for some of the experiences that I've been to, but the flow really, really matters. Timing, pace, transitions. I think that programming really determines everything. And I think truly you are the company you keep, especially on stage. So having a really strong MC, shout out to Chris Gordon, our MC. She was so great. I'm so grateful for her. I'm so grateful for every speaker. Like they were incredible. And I have seen them before. I've seen their work before. I've watched them do this before. They were there to really stay in their own lane. And we had calls leading up to it. It wasn't just like, hey, let's show up. Like there was so much prep work and everything is in preparation. I just completed our board meeting for Worth yesterday and I got congratulations text from a couple of my board members. For me and Sal, they're like, man, you guys you can tell the level of preparation that goes into when you guys put on your board meeting. And it's true. Preparation is what determines your outcome. There was no shortage of preparation for every piece of detail that was there. So we had everyone's decks ahead. We had talking points. I had calls with my speakers. I was on every call. Now, for summit number 2 for next year, I hope to be a little bit less hands-on, but because it was number 1, and this goes for any project in the build, you're the best builder. So you have to be in it. That's why the hours were long and the details were there, but the outcome was so magical because not only was my team prepared, I was ready. I was prepared. I was guiding them. I was in the trenches. I was helping make those decisions. I was doing those unblocking. If there was something crazy, I didn't get frustrated. We solved for it. And so then they saw me do that and then they were able to do that. Now that builds a culture of this program. And so I do think that the first time, which there you go, lesson number 5, leadership means holding belief even when outcomes are uncertain, but truly becoming the leader that you wish your team to emulate. I had to show up in the trenches with my team, even when, let's say, like it says like moments of doubt. Oh my God, so many moments of doubt. It's like Black Friday or it's Thanksgiving and I'm like trying to be with my family and I'm like, I don't know if the summit, like, did I make the biggest mistake? Like I would have shown up honestly if there was 100 women in that room versus the 250 women in that room. But man, when you set out a goal and you want to get to that goal, like I knew I was going to get there, but I had to will my way there. I thought it would be a little bit easier. But those moments of doubt, you're out of ideas or you're like, I just have to, this is what the timing of what we decided was, right? Like it's just the holidays and I have to like accept and understand my circumstances around and then pivot and say, okay, we're going to make a decision and this is what it's going to be. I remember in January when I was talking to the event coordinators at the, at the Phillips Center, shout out to Robin and Kathy at the Dr. Phillips Center. I mean, the whole team was just so incredible. But I remember being like, hey, I don't think we're going to be at the capacity number. I think we're going to be closer to 200. And that's cool. That was great. And if there was 200 people there, I was happy that 200 people were there. And of course, like when that moment of like we got back and I, started to share back again about the summit post the holidays, and it was January and it's like the last few weeks left. We literally sold our last ticket. It was like a week before the summit. There were a huge chunk of sales that did come in right before. And so a lot of ticket sales, moments of doubt, also a lot of decision fatigue. Carrying the pressure privately is something I wrote down here while showing up publicly. Oh, that is hard. That's what we do as CEOs all day long is carry all this pressure privately, but you still have to show up publicly and that everything is like super cool and chill and oh my God, so much stuff. Even down to operationally getting things moving at the end of like setting up the summit and, you have a vision and it's like not everything is going to be perfectly to your vision. Like there were furniture things that were like forgotten and different decor elements that just didn't make it and speakers that we needed to shift timing for. There was just so many of the last minute decisions that you have to make. And one of the best decisions that I did was usually when I do our MFC retreats or I go out and I'm speaking at different places, I'll end up recording while I'm there. I mean, I've got all these incredible speakers. I need to do podcasts with them. They're like, why don't we just do it on that Tuesday before? Or we'll do it the morning before, the Wednesday of setup while your teams are setting up. And I made the call early on that I wasn't going to do anything besides just focus on the summit. Best decision ever. Because there was nothing else happening. We were in that hall until like 11:30 at night until my team was like, okay, it's time to go home. We're wrapping up. And I had like 5 a.m. like hair and makeup the next morning and just ready for the summit. But there were no other commitments. And the host in me, I wanted to host my speakers earlier. I wanted to get these podcasts done. We had our Millionaire Founders Club groups. They were having dinners. Like there's all these pockets of things happening around town. And I'm just glad that I was like, nope, fully focused. But you really do have to step into your CEO in your project management mode as well in running something like this. And that was a big lesson for me is like, I had to be the one to do it. That's why the experience was 10 out of 10 through like every single thing. I feel so grateful for that. So those were some of like the top lessons that I wrote down that I think that you can take away if you're building out a new project like this, you want to do an experience like this. And even through it all, oh my goodness, it was like the best thing that we ever did. And I haven't even seen any of the fruits come out of this from a brand standpoint, but I do feel like we created a lot of buzz, a lot of momentum. There's going to be a lot of partnerships that come out of this. I feel excited about activating the community again. I feel like everyone got to see the new version of like this next chapter of what I'm excited to build. I feel in my ownership in this year of the horse. I feel so excited. This podcast is where it all began. And it was all based on the 2% club, right? And now we've really made that mainstream. There's every community, which is so incredible, talking about women rising to the 7-figure mark. But now we're beyond that. Like, how do we build companies at this level? And it doesn't mean unicorn by the definition of the financial. You don't have to go build $1 billion business, but I want you to feel like the unicorn in your space and building it on your terms with the freedom formula intact, getting freedom of dollar, freedom of time, and having massive impact. I didn't even get a chance to talk about Tiny Superheroes and the massive impact that we had for Tiny Superheroes. For every single seat that was there, we made the most beautiful hat in collaboration with Tiny Superheroes that said CEO is a superpower. And if you haven't caught Erica's episode, we'll link it so you can learn about Tiny Superheroes. They create the most beautiful superhero capes for kids with cancer to give them their superhero ability before they're going into a chemo treatment or about to go through an MRI or another. Just going through their treatments is so difficult, just as a parent to watch, but as a child. And these capes give them this almost sense of like it's another patch for them. Like they're going to go into this mission, they're going to go into this battle, and they're going to come out in victory. And so we donated, and for every seat that came to the summit, you unlocked a superhero. And so there's one kit for every single seat that was there. And so we just activated the entire wait list of tiny superheroes, and we just got to do so much good with that. There wasn't even a doubt that we were going to have an impact component of this. And I probably could have done a better job of like sharing, talking about it, but it was such an important part of the event experience too, for us to make sure we had something that tied us back together to give back to our communities. Because when you are successful, and this is why I want you to be a unicorn, then you can have an impact in every which way for everything that you care about. And that's the difference between women building companies and men, right? I'm not saying that men don't have impact, but this is something that we truly care about. We make the most amount of impact in our communities. There's stats around women in business, women with wealth, women who can actually drive the most amount of change and impact for our communities. So that was something that I feel really proud of, and just executing all of it through, even through all of the things, so many things. I feel like I look back and I'm like, oh, we didn't do a great job of partnerships, in sense of like, you can collaborate with so many other communities to talk about the event. Like I didn't get enough promo time to go on other podcasts and share more about the summit. So I felt like we took it on ourselves in that 90 days of promotion, which for the next run, I'm definitely going to be leaning in on all of you to activate and share more of our partners. And with our speakers, we were supposed to do like Instagram lives. I maybe got through 2 of those. Like there just wasn't enough time, but we made it. And we made it because truly, where there's a will, there's a way. And there was 100% will that this was going to be what I had in my head. And I just feel so grateful we were able to get there. Hopefully this episode is leaving you inspired to go do something like this. If it is a project, a partnership, an experience, a brand experience, go do the thing that scares you. Calculate your risks. Be involved for the first time, and then you can continue to iterate and make it better as well. Let me know online, screenshot this episode, tag me on social. Let me know what were your favorite key takeaways from it. And I'd love to support you in cheering you on for your next big project, your next big thing. And I want to say thank you again for everyone who showed up for the Unicorn Summit. It was so incredible. I know these aren't the things that you got to experience, but it's so fun to like reflect back and be like, holy shit, like we did a thing. We definitely did a thing. And it was just really well organized before in all of those capacities that made the execution so flawless and so incredible and an experience for our guest. So focus on your customer, right? Focus on that end experience. I'll link the post that I did. I like showed up on stories like the moment that like ticket number 250 like happened. My team pinged me right away, and I was like in like tears, like in straight tears of emotion, because I just know how hard we work to bring these things in real life for our mission. And so it just meant a lot. And I captured that and I shared that. And I'm really glad I did. And that's when like the CEO hat comes off and the founder hat comes on, and I can be in vulnerability and share. But when you're kind of going through it and you're stepping up as a leader, as a CEO, you've got to show up in that way. So that was my execution mode. Here's my founder mode for you as well. I love that you get to see both parts of me, and you have both parts of you too. But the CEO mode is what scales it. The CEO mode is what gets through it. And the founder mode is what brings the heart. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode and the lessons from the summit and building the Unicorn Summit. Let me know what questions you have. Ping me on DMs. I'm going to be linking these on stories as well, so we can interact and make sure that I answer any of your burning questions. So we'll do an Ask Me Anything. The FOMO is real, y'all. So it's definitely really cool to see all the social go out, the footage go out. Everyone's like, I wish I could have been there. I'm going to be there next year. I'm going to be there next year. So definitely go grab your ticket to the Unicorn Summit today. It'll be like a waitlist page. We are waiting on dates for the venue to lock in the exact dates for next February. But February is a great time. We also picked not timing of when we announced it, but a great time in our industry, because there's so many women's conferences that happen in March. And then April, May is so busy conference season. So is September, October. And then clearly no one wants to do anything November, December. But February was such a great time for us, for our industry. So take a look at what's also happening in your industry before you decide the date, so you're not competing against another big conference or places that your audience, might be also going to. So I hope you enjoyed all the lessons, and I can't wait to see what you do with this. I'll see you next week on the CEO School podcast. Bye, everyone.